Wavelength.
Mental illness doesn't have to be a life sentence.
Alcohol addiction, abuse, misuse is the same all over the globe.
Sparking the combos about Adelaide.
So it made me feel very confident that if we did have it in the state, we were going to know about it.
You should be having.
There'll be guys that are trained, but they don't feel like they're good enough to take their shirt off.
Almost everyone is a culprit of doom scrolling. Anyone who has a mobile phone.
On Fresh 92.7.
Welcome to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. I'm Hamish, and tonight I am joined by our resident femme fatale, Jamie, as our darling David is away tonight. And I, for one, I'm looking forward to some quality time between us tonight, Jamie.
Me too.
Maybe we'll find that we don't really need David by the end of the show. It's always dangerous to take a day off in the world of radio. Of course, I'm kidding, but Jamie, how are you?
I'm going pretty good. Sorry, David who?
Yeah. Huh?
He's dead.
Who is this guy?
Nah, you know what? I'm going really good. I've had a pretty fun couple of days. I went paintballing on Saturday.
Okay.
And it's the first time I've ever been paintballing. Can I say it was pretty hectic?
Yeah? Okay, tell us more.
I've got some absolute, welters on my body.
Oof. You do.
It was terrifying. It was equal parts exhilarating and equal parts I regretted it immediately. But
yeah.
Turns out I can shoot better than I thought, so that was fun.
Okay. Sounds much more exciting than my weekend, that's for sure. But it's pretty cool. We got a lot of exciting things happening around Adelaide at the moment. So great to see the return of some exciting events like obviously OzAsia Festival.
Yep.
We got the Cheese Fest going on.
It's pumping. It's all
Moon
happening.
Lantern Festival as well.
Yeah.
The city's just alive at the moment, isn't it?
It's
great.
so nice to see it come back to life and just to be able to see these festivals happen in fruition again. And sun's out, it feels like summer. It just feels like the old Adelaide again, which is just
it does.
Just give me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah,
Get me excited.
it does. It's so good. It's really great to see these things coming back after obviously, everything to do with COVID. Things are finally starting to feel like they're going back to normal, right?
Yeah, things are happening. I feel good. It's exciting. People are out and about. It's just... And thank God, it's about bloody time.
I know, tell me about it. But look, tonight on Wavelength, what's it like to find work as someone living with a disability in 2021's COVID-impacted Australian economy? Well, to answer this question and understand how South Australia fits into this national picture, we'll be chatting with experts and those with first-hand experience of life and work with a disability.
I've also spoken with the new artistic director of OzAsia, Annette Chanois, which took off last week.
And we'll be asking, are our schools subconsciously slut-shaming our students? Stick around to find out why, and be sure to get involved. Tell us what you think. You're listening to Wavelength.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. We hope you're having a wonderful Monday.
All right, so hey Mo, this week we're having an important conversation around finding a place in the workplace as a person living with a disability. As we know, finding a job, especially these days, is challenging enough. But what about those with the added adversity of living with a disability?
Exactly, Jamie. Look, I don't think it's something that a lot of us think about enough when we look at the national picture of employment, and we absolutely should. So to really understand where the situation's at right now, our reporter Cassie spoke with Carolyn Mounce, the director from Job Edge, which is a South Australian disability employment agency, about stigmas regarding people with disabilities gaining and keeping employment. Let's have a listen.
Wavelength.
So what is it actually like to be a young person job seeking with a disability right now?
Look, I think it's not about being right now for as long as we can remember. There's been a lot of challenges. Disability is a really broad title, and there is a lot of stigma, a lot of fear from employers around recruiting people with some of these disabilities. And I think there's a lack of confidence and a lack of motivation with the young job seeker themselves as to whether or not they'll be judged. There's a lot of fear that happens with our job seekers.
So what's actually considered a disability when it comes to entering the workplace or knowing if you're eligible for disability employment support?
Can be a physical disability, but it can also be things like people with really bad eczema who can't work with chemicals and products like that, and it's become a barrier to their employment. Then it can be much more of that sort of cognitive mental health. So it could be borderline personality, it could be narcolepsy, it could be anxiety and depression. And a lot of those people don't even think they've really got a disability. It's quite a label to be told that you are eligible for disability employment. One of the real challenges for the person themselves is, do I disclose my disability? Do I tell people that I've got a disability? Because when there's 100 or so people applying for a job, you don't want to be the person that gives the employer a reason not to employ you. And while we like to say there's no discrimination, look, I think at times there is around disability, that people get prejudged about what they're able to do. So, or what perhaps more so what they can't do. And that's why Job Edge is very much about focusing for people about what is strong, what do they bring to the table, rather than what are the things that they perhaps are not able to do for the employer. There's just such a wide breadth of experience out there. And it's foolish for any of us to miss the opportunities of working with some of those people.
What kind of impact has COVID had on people with disabilities gaining and keeping employment?
So I think there's been some disadvantages and some advantages with COVID. One of the really great advantages with COVID is people are now much more open to the idea of people working from home. And for a lot of people who are maybe a little bit socially awkward or have been used to being on their own a lot, that actually can be a real bonus for them, because it means they can do some work from home. And certainly we've found in the employment market, there's a lot more flexibility, which is really great for people who might have autism or narcolepsy or some sort of mental health challenge that makes it difficult for them to front up in the office every day. So I actually think there's some real advantages with that. The not so great things, obviously, about COVID is there has been real pressure in tourism and hospitality and some of those areas. So there's perhaps been a little less work there. But on a plus side, again, there's been a lot more work in things like transport. There's a lot of work starting to come through in that sector around, deliveries. And so it's quite an exciting time because the marketplace has changed.
Is there a way that employers can do better?
Part of it is becoming aware that in fact having diversity in your workplace is a really amazing thing. It does wonderful things for a culture and for an organisation. Often employers, particularly with things like mental health, they can get quite nervous that they're going to say the wrong thing. So I think it's just treating individuals as individuals and becoming a little bit more aware that there are 1 in 5 Australians suffer a mental health episode. It's the norm. It's not a rare thing anymore. So embrace the diversity. It's great for business.
Wavelength.
Thanks so much for that, Cassie. Anyway, up next, Jamie, you're going to walk us through the fallout from a Tasmanian school's decision to police their female students' outfits and whether you think they crossed the line. So stick around and make sure you tell us what you think. You're listening to Wavelength. Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. Now, last week, a school in Tasmania was forced to apologise after instructing a group of Year 8 schoolgirls to kneel down and have their skirts measured after complaints they were distracting male students and even teachers, right? Can you tell us some more about this, Jamie?
Yeah, I can. So it's been something that's been in the media a lot this week, and essentially it's asking a question of, are our schools slut-shaming girls for the way they're dressing? So essentially, after this incident happened with a couple of girls where they were brought out of class and forced to kneel down to have their skirts measured after a teacher said that it was distracting to other male teachers, right, which is extremely problematic. And, some parents complained and then the principal was forced to apologise on behalf of the school. This is a really big issue because this has actually been happening for a really long time at schools with girls. It's happened with me. I've gone to a couple of private schools and Catholic schools in particular, and I was put in detention for having a short skirt. I was told that how I dressed influenced men's behaviour and it was my fault. I was slut-shamed in school for wearing a short skirt. And once I opened it up and asked my other female friends, they'd all had similar experiences.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's essentially internalising the fact that females are responsible. The way that females dress is responsible for a man's behaviour. It teaches young girls that they're responsible if they get sexually assaulted and raped. It directly contributes to rape culture. And it also teaches young boys that it's okay to act on their sexual impulses based on the curiosity of how someone chooses to present themselves. And the way I see it, if male teachers are getting too distracted by like a young girl's skirt, like a 13 to 14-year-old girl's skirt, they shouldn't be teachers.
Yeah.
Like there's a way bigger risk at play here.
Yeah,
and that's like
very
predatory
worrying.
men. Yeah, and it's just like, it's this really common thing that's happening where the responsibility for a man's actions is put on a female. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's young. It's happening so early on. So it's like, it's time to start calling out these schools and say it's actually not on the girl to have to control how a male treats them. Do you know what I mean?
Or to moderate their behaviour
Yeah.
or how they present themselves to the world.
Absolutely.
You know, so that it's beneficial to the male or, I mean, the fact that these comments came from a teacher and that they said it was distracting for the teachers is just so concerning, isn't it? There's just something about it that just, I can't believe we are still, hearing these kind of comments and, I mean, accepting them, allowing them, being okay with it, which we're not, which is good because obviously it's been called out and the school has been forced to apologise. But the fact that there are people out there who think that's a reasonable, appropriate thing to say is just very it's very worrying.
It's pretty
and
backwards.
And I think it's really telling as well, it's
it's humiliating for the girls. It's humiliating, it's degrading. And I think the good thing that's come out of this story is that now people are talking about it, where it's like, I haven't really thought about what used to happen at school in this way until you kind of figured out that so many girls have this like-minded experience. So now it's in the forefront of media. So now other schools will start getting called out on it and they'll actually stop doing it. You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is conversations about just how toxic something like this can be. And schools are going to get called out on it. Like, that is a really, toxic, mentality to have to teach both the young girls of the school and the young boys. Imagine what could happen and how it could change if, ownership was put on the man, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's another example or another case of, it seems like we're just approaching the problem from the completely,
the wrong side.
Angle, definitely, for sure. And I mean, but I guess, what would you say if a school came out and said that they were, the reasoning behind it was a little bit different? Say if the school came out and said, it wasn't necessarily because it was distracting to male students and teachers, but more so they were just wanting their students to adhere to a certain code of conduct or a certain uniform policy. Does that change it at all?
I think if we're talking about the specific instance where, with the Tasmanian school, where they're literally forcing the girls onto their knees and then publicly shaming them in front of everyone, it's a completely different issue. I think that in terms of most Catholic schools, it's not about the code of conduct. It's about controlling the way that women dress.
Yeah.
And that's a bigger issue. I actually don't think it has anything to do with the code of conduct of uniform. It has everything to do with monitoring female behaviour to help men. Do you know what I mean? So it's just a way, way bigger issue than that. But what do you think, Adelaide? Get involved and hit us up on the text line, 0428 927 927. We want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you agree? Do you think the school went overboard, or do you think they were well within their rights to kind of, practice this or make their students adhere to a certain uniform policy? Or do you think there is something more insidious at play here?
Totally. Also, if it's happened to you, I want to hear about it. As a female, let us know. Text in. Tell me your experience.
Yeah, tell us your stories. That's for sure. So that number again, 0428 927 927. But up next, I'll be telling you what the hell has been going on this week. You're listening to Wavelength.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength. We hope you're enjoying the show, but right now I'm letting you know what the hell happened this week.
What the hell is going on this week? Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Strap yourselves in and get ready for a ride through all the big headlines of the week. South Australia is just days away from finally unveiling our roadmap out of COVID, with the Police Commissioner and health authorities finalising our tactics for tackling the inevitable influx of cases once the borders reopen. Some of the notable strategies include an increase of health workers and tagging every Victorian arrival like an animal at a wildlife park. Just look out for the little bit of green plastic behind their ears, guys. Meanwhile, Victoria did get to enjoy their own long-awaited Freedom Day this week as wide widespread restrictions were rolled back on Thursday night. Wild scenes were reported as people finally left their homes after the state's 6th lockdown before realising they'd all developed crippling social anxiety and an oversensitivity to sunlight, promptly heading back inside. The Wiggles announced that leading lady Emma has stepped down to be replaced by Ethiopian-born 15-year-old teenager Sahai Hawkins, and predictably, right-wingers were triggered. At the same time, the OG crew announced that they were going on tour with some of the biggest Aussie rock acts like DZ Death Rays and Polish Club, and I'm excited. I've heard the wall of death for fruit salad goes off. A climate change protest in the heart of the CBD halted traffic to a standstill as members of the Extinction Rebellion movement glued their hands to the road, which is marginally better than the anti-vaxxers' tactic of burying their heads in the sand. And finally to sport. The world was shocked to learn that Ben Simmons, a former NBA number 1 draft pick who once dated a Kardashian, is actually a bit of an arrogant prick. While Novak Djokovic looks set to be banned from the Australian Open after he refused to disclose whether he's been vaccinated or not, I'm going to make a guess and say that's a hard no then, Novak. And that's what the hell has been happening this week.
Wavelength.
Once again, my favourite part of the week. Melbourne is out of lockdown. They get some sweet, sweet freedom.
I know. Hey.
What was the? I want to know what the wild scenes.
Candy.
What was the wild scenes reported? Was everyone just getting lit? Like,
Yeah.
Was everyone just like, I am going to give it 110%?
Absolutely, yeah. People were going absolutely nuts, as you can imagine they would, and just flooding the pubs and the bars.
Oh my God, I bet. Well, I had like crippling anxiety after our like very short lockdown, so I actually can't even imagine what it would be like after being in the world's longest lockdown.
Yeah, I know.
I'd be like,
in all honesty.
I don't know how to speak to anyone.
Yeah, I don't know how to adult anymore. I feel like their road to recovery is probably a little bit longer than they think there. And so that Extinction Rebellion protest.
Can I tell you a secret?
Of course, always.
My 84-year-old grandma is a part of Extinction Rebellion because she's like this amazing activist.
Am I not even remotely surprised by this?
Oh my
This
God.
is just so par the course for you, Jamie. This explains everything. You and your rebellious grandma.
And she's been trying to get me to come along to one of their protests for ages. Like, she wasn't at this protest that, blocked the city, obviously, because she's 84, so she's kind of chilling at home. But it's just so funny.
They didn't have any wheelchair access?
No wheelchair access this day.
Okay, so she had to stay
no
at
walking
home.
stick for her.
Okay.
But no, she's actually just handing out like cakes to everyone, like on the side and tea. No.
They are some pretty badass grannies and grandpas, aren't they?
Yeah, but she's been trying to get me to go to one of those protests for so long. And she was like, gonna go to this one? And I was like, nah, probably not.
No, you didn't pass there. You must be this old to participate in this protest.
Exactly.
That's out the front.
Hey, they're fighting for something pretty important, but
they are, absolutely. So full props to them, and
totally.
It's great to see someone, people from that generation fighting for something that's, they're not really going to have to worry about. To be completely
in the
honest,
near future.
But that's what makes it even, even better, the selflessness. So it's good to see, that kind of a protest going on.
100%.
That's for sure.
And I wonder what's going to happen with the Australian Open, because if most of its contestants can't come over to play.
What's the deal with most of the contestants, though? As far as I knew, it was just Novak Djokovic that wasn't going to be.
There's so many other tennis stars that also won't be able to come in if they haven't been vaccinated.
Yes, but surely
most
of them. Yeah, a couple. That's right, a couple.
Yeah,
I could probably count on one hand the amount that aren't going to get vaccinated.
No, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a bit outdated now. I was reading something the other day, like when I was reporting news last week, that was saying that there's probably at least 15 tennis stars that won't come over.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And I wonder how that's going to affect the game and the competition.
Primary school classroom,
yeah, exactly.
Of people, so that's pretty significant.
Novak.
How
many people play at the Tennis Open? I thought it was only a handful. How many tennis stars are there? I don't know. I actually don't. I don't watch the Australian. Tennis isn't my game. So
tennis is my game, but even saying that, there probably are about 15.
I was like, how many people are? Is it a big competition though?
Yeah. No, it is a big competition. There's usually about over 60 participants in each.
Well, then out of 60, that's 1/4 of it.
Yeah,
not being able to come in.
Yeah.
I don't know, but also not having the number 1 world star there, right? That's crazy.
He's got a lot of pull for sure.
Surely
so
the other
someone
stars,
of his profile,
Surely those stars are yes. Like, finally.
Yes,
like,
our Messiah.
yeah, Novak's not going to be there. Let's get it in. Let's get that gold.
Anyway, up next, Jamie will be chatting with the new artistic director of OzAsia, Annette Chamois. So stick around. You're listening to Wavelength.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. With OzAsia Festival in full force until November 7th, we wanted to get the lowdown on the festival, what they've got planned, and why it's such an important festival for Adelaide. So we have with us Annette Chamois, the new artistic director, to give us the goods.
Wavelength.
Adelaide Festival Centre's OzAsia Festival is one that brings diversity and a platform for Asian culture right in our backyards. I chat with the festival artistic director, Annette Chamois, about the festival and its importance. So, Annette, you've got an incredible background in radio, television, publishing and theatre.
Yeah, well, this is my very first time as a festival director. So I'm the director of OzAsia Festival, the artistic director. You know, right now it's really important for us to focus on the engagement between Australia and Asia, and this is what OzAsia Festival is all about. And I have been involved in OzAsia on and off doing little events and some of my own work with a company I have in Sydney called Contemporary Asian Australian Performance. We've had some of our shows as part of OzAsia in the past, and it seemed to me that the festival's great in that it highlights some exciting work from Asia, and it also helps foster collaboration between Australian artists and Asian artists. But what it seemed to be missing to me was the very people who embody that connection between Australia and Asia, that is Asian Australian artists. And I have a really strong interest in Asian Australian stories. So for me, that was the big thing that I really wanted to bring into the program of OzAsia Festival. And also because of the work I do, I was aware that there are so many really exciting new artists and really great work of the highest calibre that often doesn't get programmed at this level at major festivals. So I really wanted to do my bit and make sure that there was a really good showcase so that audiences could get to see this very exciting work that's being created.
That's so amazing. So what kind of thing and what kind of artists can we expect to see?
Well, you know, the festival covers just about every art form. So we have a film program, we have visual arts, and we have theatre, music and dance. So there's a whole range of stuff. So I'm really excited. For example, we open in the first week with White Pearl, which is a play by probably the most exciting new Australian playwright, and truly Felicia King. And White Pearl was her debut play, which a couple of years ago in Sydney, but it actually had its world premiere in London and has also been produced in the United States, talking about race issues and even interracial discrimination. It's really interesting and it's just sort of searing dialogue and very, very funny, and also a great showcase for some great actors who you may not have seen before.
Why do you think that this festival is culturally important for a city like Adelaide?
Culturally important for Australia. I think that particularly in terms of festivals and our sort of high-end culture, we don't really reflect what Australia is as a population. You know, I don't think it's as culturally diverse as our population is. And so my aim is to make sure that we bring that balance back by making sure there is a showcase for the work that up until now has been left out a little bit of those mainstream festivals. But also I think it's work that really resonates with different audiences. And I think that a lot of people look at these big festivals and don't necessarily see things that relate to them and their lives and their experience of the world.
And if people want to, see the program and check out what they can go and experience, where should they go?
The best way is to go online to the website, which is ozasiafestival.com.au. There's a couple of other really great one-off events you should check out, like the Pinoy Street Party, which is Kuya James, who's Adelaide-born, but one of our busiest music producers. James is based in Darwin, and the Pinoy Street Party is this great street party where he brings a couple of his Darwin colleagues with him, such as Serena Pesh. and Feel the Beat. And they're working with a whole bunch of Filipino artists based in Adelaide. So it's a real collaboration with the Filipino community. And it's a big party with hip-hop and remixes and culture and street food and entertainment. So that's going to be huge fun. So all sorts of fun things. If you have a look at OzAsiaFestival.com.au, you'll be able to sort through all the different events and see what might work for you.
Wavelength.
Thanks so much for that, Jamie. Anyway, up next, Cassie returns with part 2 of our lead story on disabilities in the workplace. So stay tuned. You're listening to Wavelength.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having.
All right, so hey Mo, earlier in the show we heard from Carolyn Mounce from Job Edge about how workplaces can embrace those living with a disability. Up next, Cassie had a chat with Lisa, a job seeker, who found herself living with an unexpected disability and the support she suddenly found herself eligible for.
Wavelength.
I'm a 52-year-old mother of 4 children. I've worked as a teacher for most of my life, but within that I've had a lot of anxiety and depression and have been on and off work because of that. And didn't class myself as having a disability, but just trying to work myself through it. Then COVID happened. I had been teaching from home for 6 months and then knew I was going to go back face-to-face and just knew I just wasn't going to be able to do it. I was starting to have panic attacks and so decided, okay, I'll go on the job seeker payment. And after I'd only been on the payment for a short while, I got a phone call from Centrelink. And because I said in my application that I had depression, the person just was really worried about Centrelink supporting me in the best way, and would I be interested in being linked to a disability provider, job provider. I honestly didn't view myself that way, but I was like, well, yeah, that might be a good idea. And so I had an appointment with a lady called Mel, and she was amazing. And I'm going to try not to get upset because she was so supportive and so understanding. And I've had experiences with job providers before, but this was so different because she was interested in me, the person, and how she could support me in not only trying to look for a job, but keeping the job, because that was my issue in the past.
So Lisa, how is it living with a disability in 2021?
It's not so bad because I think that there is support out there for us, and it's just being willing to accept the support and knowing that it's out there, that there is, because I honestly did not know that you could have a disability job provider. I don't feel ashamed or anything about even saying that I have depression or I have anxiety. I think our society, I think our world is getting better equipped to look after and nurture people who have got disabilities.
How did the pressures of COVID and remote working affect your employment?
I actually, when I knew that I was going to be able to teach from home, I was excited about it because I was teaching high school children Indonesian, and it was a real challenge. And I was thinking, this is going to be so much better working from home. And it was for a while, but then that isolation, I became very, very depressed because I felt so isolated.
How can employers do better by people living with disabilities?
Just finding out more about them as a person, like building up relationships with them better so that then they can sort of support them in a strengthening way rather than making a judgment, so-and-so hasn't come to work or they're late or they're not focused or whatever. Taking the time to get to know a person, I think, makes the difference, and working out how they can support that person with their needs, because, we're all wanting to get out there. We're all wanting to get a job, and then sometimes that disability, how we're feeling or how we can react to things because of, whatever issues we've got, if we don't feel supported, it makes you feel like, well, why bother?
Do you have any messages to people in similar circumstances to you?
Just never give up. And don't be shy or nervous to reach out to people and ask for support, because the support is out there and that we can do great things. We just have to believe in ourselves, but also believe in the people around us that they can help us as well.
Wavelength.
Thanks so much for that great chat, Cass. And how awesome was it to hear from Lisa
Oh my
there?
God,
The
what?
courage and the inspiration from her story is, just awesome. And it was really, as I said, inspiring to hear that those kind of support networks and those kind of facilities are actually available.
Oh, absolutely. I was actually tearing up listening to that. That was so beautiful. And also, I actually personally didn't know that if you suffer from depression or anxiety, you're eligible for more support from Centrelink and a disability job provider.
Yeah, I mean, I just had no idea that it was classified as a disability at all.
Exactly.
And it makes complete sense.
Yeah, it
absolutely
does.
should. But to be honest, I got to be real with you here. I am pretty surprised that we classify it as that. It's great, it's great to know that we do, and it's great to see that we are rewriting the narrative around
100%.
what is and isn't a disability, and it does give me a bit of hope hearing that Centrelink offered
Centrelink's actually
that
helping.
kind of help, and that support is available.
Totally.
How we view disabilities is changing in a really great way. We've got a long way to go, but things are getting better. I do feel like that.
It just supports people suffering from depression, anxiety. It validates how they're feeling, their struggles. Through COVID, I feel like the percentage or the statistic of people with depression and anxiety is significantly higher than it used to be.
Yeah, that support is needed more now than ever before.
We're in a public healthcare crisis,
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. We got a lot of problems in this country,
Totally.
but we are getting some things right.
Yeah,
we do get some things
absolutely.
right, and we are pretty bloody lucky here.
Oh,
and
you know
hearing that
what?
kind of stuff does make me feel like we're quite grateful
Totally.
to have that available, because it's not available in a lot of other places around the world.
No, and you know what?
It's just not.
Support's out there, and the first step is, as she said, it's willing to accept the support. So if you need the support,
Seek it out.
please
It's there.
go seek it out. It's there for you.
Don't be shy.
No, head onto the website and check out more.
Absolutely. Anyway, now we're getting right back into the music again. You're listening to Wavelength.
Wavelength.
And that brings us to the end of the show tonight. Thanks so much for listening.
Make sure you're subscribed to the Wavelength podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you get your podcasts. You can listen back to our old episodes right now, and you'll be the first to know when tonight's episode goes up.
Sadly, the team here at Wavelength will be taking a week's break next Monday, so do enjoy your extra hour with Kale for the drive home.
Yeah, that's right. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news even more,
What now?
but this is actually my last show for the year.
Oh, Jamie, don't do this to me. Why?
I know,
Was it
but-
something I said?
Yeah, it was something you said. I'm not going to
Please.
tell you what it is, though. I'm going to keep you on the toes.
Please don't go.
No,
don't
but I promise I will be back next year, and we've got some exciting things planned for next year, don't we, Hamo?
Yes, we do. So stay tuned, watch this space. We have some really big, exciting announcements to make towards the end of the year before we go on break. But look, Jamie, you'll be taking a little bit of leave for now. The city weeps. But it's been an absolute pleasure. You're a treasure, and hopefully you'll be back in 2022, right?
Amen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this week. You're listening to Fresh.
Wavelength.